Welcome to another episode of Martial Purity, where two guys roam the earth proving that everyone else that teaches self-defense is teaching a bunch of trash, and there's only one way to defend yourself from evil.
Okay, hang on. I'm supposed to tell you guys something, but what's the one way to defend yourself from evil?
I'm not sure.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Evil Safety Dudes, a podcast we release every Monday telling you guys how not to die at work. That was my partner in crime, Mr. Aaron Iacino, hamming it up. He is a specialist in safety and health in both the general industry and construction.
Yes, and my partner, AJ Hanscom, is the same. He is a SSH times 2.
Those. However, I gotta circle back. What's the one way?
Well, there isn't, but
like, I was excited. I was like, maybe he's come up with something ridiculous to throw at us.
What is a terrible tragedy on the world is all of these bogus self-defense trainings out there. These guys are telling these people, kids, women, men, what to do to defend themselves.
That's true.
And it's trash. It's
I've seen some bad ones.
And there are actually people online that have shows where they show this phony guy teaching self-defense, and then they test it in real life and they expose it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That would just, some of these look really bad. Well,
It's
welcome.
a bunch of trash.
Welcome, you guys. We're just, we're hamming it up over here at the IBC Fort, sending you guys.
Podcast fort.
It's not
It's
the
a
fort.
podcast fort.
We've discussed this. It is a grown man's fort.
Where we podcast.
We podcast. Today, we are going to be talking to you guys about electrical safety.
Yes.
We got some electrical safety.
That's all we do in the fort is we podcast.
Well, yeah.
See, a fort is like where you go to hang out and just do fort stuff.
Yeah. And
we
so
would, trade baseball cards or something. But
if that's what you build the fort for, then it's a baseball card fort.
But it's a podcast.
You just call it the fort.
It's not a general fort.
It's the fort.
It's
the
all right.
only fort you need.
So anyway, that's what we're doing, and this electrical safety is an important topic. We'll share some of these stats with you here in a minute to show why it's such an important topic that we definitely had to cover, and that everybody should listen to, because everybody is just subject to electrical hazards. No one is exempt from them. No EMPs have went off and destroyed everything with the circuit in America yet, to where we're in a dystopian society, living off candles.
I mean, it's too bad, almost.
Well,
it'd be kind of a good time.
It looks like the shows are fun to watch, but
right, yeah.
Since we're not there yet, we got to talk about electrical safety.
So before we do, Aaron, you got anything new or anything going on in your life?
Yeah,
anything
I started
fun?
lifting weights again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get strong.
Heck yeah.
And
you were pretty tough here when you went and did your big last cage match. You were strong.
Yeah, and then I quit, and now I'm getting injured every time I spar, and I'm just done with that scene. So I'm gonna build my body back up, and I'm gonna be all Master Roshi about
there you
it.
Go. Time to get strong.
I'm gonna be like this bald old dude, right? And then I'm gonna go into the dojo and just be like, "Whoa."
Bald old ripped dude.
Yeah, and then they're gonna freak out, it is Master Roshi.
Awesome. Well, you have to start growing the big white beard and get it taken
I already
care of.
got a lot of white.
There you go.
How about you? What's new with you?
Well, so this is my first winter of ever owning a truck. So the Camaro, he's parked. I've been getting a lot of crazy questions. People are really freaking out. They're like, "It's not gone, is it?" Because come rain,
your
snow.
Camaro's a guy? That's kind of weird.
Oh yeah, his name's Vaughn. He lives in my garage.
That's even more weird. Most dudes' cars are girls.
You just go by what it is. That he just happened to be a guy.
I understand your car wanting to be cool, so you make it masculine, but then you're all in love with the guy and stuff.
I wouldn't say I'm in love with a guy. Well,
you do love your Camaro.
I love my Camaro.
And so you love Vaughn.
Yeah.
How's your wife feel about that?
She's all right with it.
She's
she
cool
likes
with
it a lot.
It's not a jealousy thing.
No.
You talk about Vaughn more than me, and you spend more time with Vaughn than I do.
No, it's never gotten weird like that. That would be awkward as all get out.
Okay, well, enough of that. I'm getting too personal. Does the truck got a name yet?
Bertha.
What is the deal with that?
It's just it's a big truck.
Yeah, but that's not a cool, tough name.
So it's you spend enough time with a vehicle, you kind of get a feel for it.
See, I had a truck that I hated.
Yeah.
And so I won't say the name because someone might be named that and be offended, but it was a name like that,
okay.
Bertha, that I thought was an ugly name, and so that's what I named my truck. 'Cause I didn't like it.
That's terrible. This is my ugly name truck. Ugh.
Not you though. You just like Bertha because it sounds like birth, and you're big when you give birth, right?
Nope. Not at all. This is Bertha. She gets stuff done.
So your truck's a girl, but your car's a guy.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. You
Yeah.
know. All right, we'll go with that. Rock and roll.
Yeah, for sure. My wife's truck was actually a guy.
Well, that makes sense.
He's
to
this
me.
white little GMC, and she calls him Mr. Snowflake.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There you go. Yeah, Mr. Snowflake, and gets her around.
All right,
So it's been awesome having a truck for winter, though. Not two-wheeling it around, sliding everywhere in the Camaro.
Are you the one that hit that big snowdrift coming into the?
Oh,
training
dude, I
center?
took that thing out.
Yeah, I figured that was
I was,
you.
I
I was
right
too
through
scared. I went around it.
It. I was like, nope. I just went right over it.
You kind of got to test what it's made out of, though, so when you get in a pinch, you know what it can handle. So
Oh, for
I'm kind
sure.
of with you on that. I've had mine for about 4 years
Yeah.
now, so
You got to give it just a little nudge every now and then, see what she's made of.
All right, so we're talking about electrical safety today, and some OSHA cases. Want to talk about that, just what OSHA's citing on.
Yeah.
We're in Iowa, and I'm not sure if they still work for the state of Iowa OSHA, but we had an electrician who became an OSHA compliance officer.
Oof. So
And
you know what they're looking for.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were on this construction site one time, critical lifts, super heavy stuff with cranes. I'm talking about $10,000 an hour cranes
Right.
on site, lifting vessels and just like insane stuff.
So way over 50% of their load.
And this
like, they're-
guy is in our job trailers, opening our breaker panels and seeing if they're labeled.
Well, he's playing to his strong suits, man.
And I get that, and I appreciated that. But, from not getting busted standpoint, but
Right.
at the same time, if you're there to make sure that site's safe, there was hardcore stuff going on.
Right, yeah.
He actually did bust us.
Oh, yeah? What'd you get, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so what happened was our rental, it was a rental job trailer. So all you construction workers who rent job trailers, heed my tale. It had a missing slot where a breaker should have gone in the breaker panel.
It needed that blank.
It needed that blank, but didn't have it. So OSHA got us on having access to live unguarded parts.
So you guys cited for access to an open breaker panel while like a critical lift is happening.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
who knows if you guys had like a math sheet down, maybe you had like a 4-point harness and you needed to make sure that like you'd actually gone through and done the calculations and got your ratio correct. And like none of that. He was like,
$800, and all I had to do was go buy a couple dollar blank from the electrical supply store and slap it in there, send a picture, and it was a quick abatement. But
well, yeah, I mean,
I couldn't even get out of it. I tried. It's like, this is not ours. We don't own this.
but your employees
It's a
were
rental.
Yeah, exposed.
And then I tried to get the rental company to pay for it, and they're like, whatever.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they're like, we're not paying your OSHA violation for our fault,
Oh, my goodness.
But, we should, anything that we rent, we should check for OSHA violations.
Well, yeah, we always try to lecture people on that.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it once, but don't forget, you can either be the exposed, the creating, or the controlling,
Yep.
and you can get hit.
Yep. So, anyway, that's a real OSHA electrical
Yeah.
story. You got any OSHA
I mean,
cases
kind of.
dealing
I was
with
doing a little,
electrical?
I mean, just
online or
some
in
surface
person?
level digging here, because I always just try to look up a couple things. But looks like in 2019, we had 166 electrical related deaths. 2019.
2019, 166.
Yeah, that's like a person like almost every other day.
I think that's down because one of the last stats I saw was that one person dies every day in America from an electrocution.
Oof.
So if it's, that's bad news, but that's actually good news. Instead of 365, it was down 166.
Yeah.
It's still 166 too many lives lost.
Right. For
Yeah.
something that probably could have been as easy as lockout, tagout, or remember to shut down your machine before you stick your arm in it.
You and I have a safety colleague that is another trainer down in Omaha, and he lost his dad from an electrical issue.
Yep. That one was rough.
What do you know about that one? We talking about the same guy?
Yeah, we're talking about the same guy. He was up on a ladder, working over machinery, working inside a live box, and it got him, and then it dropped him into, I think it was a jig.
Well, what he told me was when he fell, his head hit the machine, and that
Oof.
killed him. But the zap caused him to fall.
Yeah.
But the impact on the machine on his head killed him.
Yep.
So it's kind of an electrical death.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he wouldn't have fallen if he would have been working on live parts.
We had one in town here with an electrician working on a light pole, and the live wire contacted the pole,
Mm-hmm.
and he was touching it. And
Oof.
he got zapped.
Now, this is terrible. It's a little, maybe I shouldn't, because we got a lot of people that listen, but I have kind of a gross one. Maybe we shouldn't do a gross one.
What we have to, that's our style. We either keep people laughing or grimacing.
So a guy was, he was working in, and this is, as the story goes, working in a motor control box, and he contacted a live line, and the shock went through his body and came out his calf muscle and grounded out. And actually, when it grounded, it pulled a lot of his calf muscle off of his body and burnt on where it came through his body. And
Yeah.
I guess when they did their follow-up investigation, the room actually just kind of smelled like
100%.
like burnt person.
Yeah, for sure.
And as the story goes, burnt person is semi-reminiscent to hot dogs.
That's gross. I've smelt burnt person on more than one occasion.
Would you also agree with the hot dog
I
evaluation?
would not. It smells like burning people.
It's got its own unique.
It's like if you're ever in surgery and they're, cauterizing, they're using lasers, you smell it.
Okay, so I was awake in my own heart surgery when they were doing cardioablation, and they
Okay.
did have lasers going, but I obviously couldn't smell my own burning heart.
The other super thing, more gross and sad than yours, was I had the somber experience where I went and saw the Twin Towers. So they went down in September. I was
Yeah.
on site in December,
Oh, man.
and they were way past rescue. They were way past body recovery.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
it's a construction site.
Yep.
And there was that smell.
Still there.
And this is so sad. I'm just sorry if anybody lost somebody in
thousands
this.
of people.
But one of the firefighters was telling me, he said every time they go in with the excavator and they scoop off a chunk, it allows air to surge through there and fuel the flame. There was still fires burning underneath all the
Oh,
rubble.
yeah, for sure.
He says this was December.
Mm-hmm.
This is months later. And I said,
Oh.
how is this fire going so long? And he said, the body fat mixed with the office furniture is making like a candle.
Oh, boy.
So that's really gross. So
Yeah,
welcome
that's
everybody to the evil safety dudes. Something that people don't
That's
get.
terrible.
Let me just go off on a soapbox for a minute.
Uh-oh.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. That's
All
kind of what that's the whole point of a podcast. It's literally our soapbox.
People look at us as the evil safety guys because we're like, hey, don't play with that busted extension cord
Please.
with those live parts because you could die. And they're like,
Yeah.
whatever, evil safety man.
Yeah.
Everybody's messing with us, but they don't realize we've investigated the fatalities.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the blood on the floor. We've interviewed the people in the hospital.
Yeah.
We've talked to the guy who found the dead coworker.
Right.
Like when we're seeing something and saying, please don't do that, we're seeing all the people that died from doing it.
Yeah.
We're not just out there like, look, we're so cool. We're like a mall cop.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, I got a position where I could go mess with people. I can't wait to mess with people. That's what they
Right.
think we're doing. But we're seeing the guy's wife,
Yeah.
who one terrible tragic case that was just brought back up was a young guy died. He had a baby and his wife was pregnant.
Mm.
And he's gone. And I'm seeing her when I'm
Yep.
telling this guy to not do that. And he's just
Yep.
like, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
safety guy, blah, blah, blah,
Ugh.
like the Tasmanian devil. And, it's just, I just kind of want everybody to know that, safety matters. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we need to go home the same piece we came in. And that's an old adage, but it's still true today. And electrical safety is no different. So
Electrical safety is surprising.
what are some of the electrical safety issues you're seeing on sites today still?
I still see busted and frayed cords is rampant.
So like just the outer insulation or even
Like bare wire. You can see
Yeah.
copper.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
straight up.
Yeah, I see copper all the time.
All the time. And it doesn't even seem to phase people. They've been using the same beat up, old, nasty, broken, frayed piece of equipment all the time.
Right. What upsets a lot of owners or foremen is I go and I find a bad cord. I find a damaged cord, the ground prong is busted
And
off.
we need to make sure we explain a ground pin.
And they say, oh, my guys, I just threw away all the cords from the last time you came, and these are all new ones.
These are all brand new.
And it's just recurring.
Yep. They have that disassociation. They're like, and it's like a big part of it, I think, is maybe a misunderstanding of what the actual purpose is that for. Like that ground pin.
Let's
It's a
do our
simple-
best as non-electricians to try to explain that. You want to take that one?
So as best as I can explain it, is that ground pin offers a direct path for that electricity to go to ground.
To the ground.
Electricity will travel the path of least resistance. It's most easy path of travel to ground. And so with that ground pin there, what it does is if that power tool or maybe a piece of equipment or whatever you're using, if it does have a short circuit and it would want to travel that electricity maybe through the casing or the housing
Through your
or
feet.
Yeah, it's going to want to leave the tool and leave the circuit and go to ground. Now, if there's no ground pin, the easiest way to ground is probably through you. But if there is a ground pin, well, then it can actually travel back through that ground line and go to ground without getting you.
Right. So ground pins are really important. And I never understood why manufacturers don't make them stronger.
Why on earth can they just pop off?
So like the two
like it's
ones
nothing.
on the side,
Always
I
there.
bent those like everybody's bent those. Everybody's
They
bent
get
those.
hammered to death, and you just straighten them out, and they're always
they
on.
just stay intact
Forever.
But man, that you step on that ground pin.
Oh, yeah.
It gets sideways. You go to pop it straight. Dink.
Comes right out.
Like you'd think
Ugh.
how humanity has progressed.
Right.
We should be able to figure that out.
You would think, because honestly, it's
Let's
a life-saving
invent one.
tool.
Let's invent.
We're just gonna
a
make an
ground
extension cord.
prong safety
Yeah,
cord,
that's just killer.
and
$1 million idea.
then we could just podcast all the time.
If you invent that and send it out, I want you to name it after us. Call it the Evil Safety Dudes extension cord with super duper ground pin.
Extraordinaire.
Yeah. All of those words must be in it.
Yeah.
We don't even want money. Just go save people's lives.
I'll
Please
take
do
1%.
it.
What?
Aaron
Just
wants money.
1%. If it's our idea, we should get paid, right?
I don't even care. I would rather somebody's lives get saved than I get
Okay,
paid.
fine. 0.5%. then.
Aaron still wants money. No, I like it. Good ideas should be rewarded.
All right.
The only reward I need is other people not dying, Aaron.
Yep, you're a better safety man than I. So
But it's true.
Yeah, the cords are an issue. I also see them stapled, nailed,
Oh my gosh.
run over sharp edges, run through walls, run through doors, overhead doors, smashing them all times, forklifts running over them all the time.
Okay, here's true story. I just saw this. You remember the and we won't get too specific, but I need you to get your brain on the what I'm talking about. So you know, you remember the boiler job we were doing? Remember the big high profile?
I do. Yeah,
okay.
that was cool.
So they had these guys in there working in that giant boiler room when they set that second boiler. These guys were running extension cords up the sides of their scissor lift.
Okay.
Now they tied the loop around the handrail of the scissor lift, so they
Right.
had about 4 foot hanging out for their tool, and the rest of it hung underneath the scissor lift, and they kept repositioning their scissor lift. Right in front of me while I'm standing there, the guy goes to go up, and I yell at him because once he gets about 3 foot up, you know how the little stabilizer flaps come down on the bottom?
Right,
They're not
right.
really like outriggers, but like
Right, yeah,
anyways, those little scissor lift flaps come out. They
Uh-huh.
pinch the cord into the ground.
Man.
And he kept going up. It was tied to the rail, and it literally tore that extension cord completely wide, all open. It just come in half, and it was just bare copper hanging
He's
out.
lucky he didn't energize his lift
Yep.
and die.
He was very lucky. And I'm yelling, hollering, I'm trying to get him to stop. And the only reason he did stop is because it started to sound funny, and then the scissor lift started to lean over.
That's crazy. And it should never happen because there's a built-in outlet in the platforms of most
Yep.
scissor lifts. You're supposed to plug it in to the bottom, not the charging one, the powered platform one. And then there's a built-in extension cord goes through the scissors. And then not only do you have a charged outlet in your basket, but it's got a GFCI on it.
GFCI protected, automatic human body detector, looking for that 5 milliamp difference in your positive negative line. And if it detects that 5 milliamp difference, then it'll just open the circuit.
Yeah, it's supposed to shut it down in a 40th of a second.
I mean, so you could still technically have a teeny tiny exposure, but it's better than becoming the ground conduit.
So a lot of people thinks that GFCIs are breakers.
They are not. They
But
are not breakers. They're not overcurrent. They don't protect against any of that.
They're life safety devices.
Mhm.
I've seen many times in a plant. I even seen at one plant here locally where they had a sign posted by the GFCI outlet because something was plugged into it, and it says, if this thing keeps popping, just keep hitting reset. Like, that's what the sign said.
Oh,
But what they don't understand is every time that pops, that's like saving your life.
it would potentially ground it out. It could have
And
killed you.
if it's popping 5 times a shift, running 3 shifts, and it's 3 weeks doing that, and it just quits working,
Yeah.
and you have no ground fault circuit interrupter protection anymore, you could be toast.
Yeah, it could kill you.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, you have to make sure that every single, and this is just the construction standard. I believe everything that's plugged in on the under your 1926 must be GFCI protected.
There's got to be GFCIs, and so a lot of the better, bigger construction electricians now, when they build temp panels for all the other contractors, they're putting GFCIs right in those temp panels, and
Which is awesome. That
that's
protects
what
everything
I love.
downstream.
Kudos to you electricians, you Sparkies that
Thinking
are
of that,
that are
taking care of
doing that,
people.
because that's awesome. Otherwise, I still encourage every contractor to have a portable GFCI with them.
For sure. And they're not even that hard to come by. Like, they're
No,
everywhere.
no,
You can buy
for sure.
them.
And
They're so portable, tiny.
I plug it into the wall.
Well, I mean, maybe not tiny, but
They're not bad. Plug them into the wall, plug my extension cord into that, boom.
yep, GFCI right there.
Yeah.
You're rigged up.
Yeah, so I see a lot of those same violations when I'm on site with drop cords.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen, you know how the cool extension cords have
The
a
cool
light?
extension cords?
Yeah, because they have a light that goes on
Oh, yeah.
on the end, so you could tell that it's energized.
Mhm.
I like that.
I like
I
that.
think that's really cool.
I do.
What I'm sick of seeing is that light on underwater.
I see it a lot, actually.
You know, you daisy chain, you hook a couple extension cords together, you drop that right in a puddle, and it's underwater.
So just a fun story where we all got nice and terrified together. But I was at a construction site with one of my contractors at right near the end of 2018, and the whole job site kept filling up with water. And they were building these apartment complexes, they were all their side to side apartment complexes, and we're on the bottom floor. And I look down, and we're in maybe about 2 inches of water, and the whole floor is still snaked with everybody's extension cords, and they are all live, all of them.
Yeah, nobody thought,
Yeah, I'm
water's
like-
coming in, get the drop cords.
Yeah, I'm like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, it's not bad. We've been in this for weeks. Nothing's going to happen. I was like, that's exactly how you make something happen.
Have you ever had somebody working on something live and you ask, what are you doing? Is this safe? And they go, oh, don't worry, it's low voltage.
Oh, it's low voltage. It's only 220.
And that's an amp that'll kill you.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
But let's mess with you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
I don't like this.
you taught that electrical OSHA
I
safety
have.
PowerPoint 10 billion times.
I have. Let's hope I can remember
Do you
this now.
remember how many amps it takes to kill you if it passes through your heart?
No. I don't think that's actually in the PowerPoint. And if it is, I don't have that slide.
Yeah, I it's 0.75.
0.75 amps.
0.75 milli.
That's all it takes to stop your heart.
Now, I'm not an electrician, so I thought a milliamp is a millionth of an amp. I guess it's a thousandth of an amp,
Okay.
which is a dumb name. Milli should be for million.
But when you go before the decimal, you actually switch to metric.
Okay,
So
well,
you're
you're way
using-
smarter than I
You're
am.
using like deci, which means 10, and deca is 100, and then milli is 1,000.
That makes no sense. I mean, it does when but whatever. So anyway, 0.75 milliamps.
Right.
That's not even 1 milliamp.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a very, 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 very small amount.
Yeah.
Now,
I suppose
most
with
people
that.
have been shocked by way more than that. They go, well, I'm still alive. Well, if it goes through your heart,
That's what it needs to do.
yeah, it'll send you into a ventricular fibrillation. See, what a lot of people don't realize is their heart is an electrical pump.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, your whole body's an electrical system.
But in particular, that heart has 2 spark plugs on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have an SA node and an AV node. And when 0.75 milliamps goes through that heart, it totally disrupts those nodes. And instead of shocking, like shock, like when you
Right.
listen to your heart rate really good with a good stethoscope, you hear bump, 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 leapt up, leapt up, leapt
You
up.
can actually hear
It's
it.
that multiple chambers. When you take your blood pressure, you have 2 numbers, your systolic and your diastolic, right? It's the different chambers,
Okay.
right? So you have these 2 spark plugs in there. But when that 0.75 milliamps goes through there, it jacks that up and it causes your heart to go into a seizure, basically.
Jeez.
So it's not
that was
pumping.
fun.
It's not pumping.
I got to
anymore.
do that.
It's like you guys can't see me, but it's like
He's wiggling and shaking his hands.
instead of like pumping, squishing blood out, sucking blood back in, squishing blood all the way out. Because when any muscle gets shocked, it contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So when that shocking function gets messed up and it doesn't shock right or hard enough, your heart starts pumping and you're dead in minutes. If your heart just stopped,
Yeah.
you're dead in minutes.
Yeah. If
And
you don't get that,
even if you do CPR, you're manually pumping the heart, but it's not going to make that heart come back on.
right.
You have to get that AED out.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to send about 60 joules from one paddle through the heart to the other paddle. And then the heart like goes, what just happened? What's going on
Hopefully
here?
you wake it back up.
Yeah, it completely shuts down. And if everything goes right, it comes back on, normal sinus rhythm, bump, 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 bump,
Right.
right? So when people say, oh, it's barely any juice, if it's more than 0.75 milliamps, you need to treat it like it's a loaded gun pointing at your face.
It could be enough to pass through your heart and kill you.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So super dangerous stuff. We got to protect our heart. When we teach this class, we have terrible videos we show.
Oh yeah, but I love them.
The scaffold ones are pretty bad.
Scaffold ones are pretty terrifying.
Most people have seen those.
Have you seen the one? Have you seen the one I share? Where it's
don't know.
the three guys touching the big sign hanging from like some cabling.
No, tell me about that.
He's got three guys and they're trying to turn this. It looks like it's like a huge street sign. It's got two big posts coming down to the ground and it's suspended in like a bunch of wires. I have no idea how it got up there. And they're trying to snag it loose. And all of a sudden it must just hit something live because all three guys go from, I mean, they're just standing up. They don't like collapse.
Are they on the ground?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they just fall completely over, just dead, just as they stand. They don't like
They
seize.
drop and hit the ground. They don't stay
Yep.
holding on to the sign.
Well, no, it's too big around to get their grip.
Okay.
So they're like touching it.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they just completely erect. They just fall down.
Most people in the construction and general industry who've ever taken electrical safety class have seen that one where the four guys are pushing that mobile scaffolding around
Yeah,
the corner.
That one's dark.
And they hit the power lines, and because that electricity caused that contraction, their grip never lets go, and they just stay. And it's grounding through them.
Well,
Their
I think,
feet like is arc welding.
Yeah, I think
basically.
like 2 or 3 of them plink off of it. But that one guy who's like, he's on there for a good long time. He's finally on fire. Like, it's
Yeah,
bad.
There's just so much. You know what's worse? People are scared of being shot.
Yeah.
But-
I mean, rightly so.
Yeah, but there's only one exit wound.
Okay.
And the exit wound's always worse, especially if you have a hollow point.
Right, you got your penetration, and then all that mass impact is internal, and then it can pressurize and then explode out the other side.
But
and
all
create a
these
huge exit wound.
Tough dudes who get that need to understand that electrical exit wounds are worse.
All right,
Because you could have it come in one place, but it go out 6 places.
depending on how it can get to ground, it'll just
Yeah.
fly out.
Yeah, in multiple different areas of your body, frying everything through it as it goes. So I mean, it's burning you on the inside. It's a pretty horrific injury.
Well, and we have that other video. And I know we've both seen this one. That guy who's on top of the train,
Oh yeah.
and he contacts his very high voltage power line overhead, and he's only touching it for like maybe a half second. He's
Uninsulated.
barely on it, right?
Bare feet.
And then he lands back on the train, and then what starts to trip people up is he's on fire. And I'm asking him, I'm like, all right, guys, like, did the electricity pass through his clothes? Are his clothes on fire? And they're like, no. I'm like, so the electricity went through the path of least resistance, which was through his body. So this thing actually went through his body with enough, I mean, literal resistance and heat to start the internal parts of a human being on fire.
Yeah, the human body is so conductive. All of the electrolytes,
Mhm.
Sodium, potassium, all that stuff. It's actually metal, iron.
Yeah,
Like those are soft metals.
they're conductive.
Like we don't think about potassium. We need to get potassium. Eat bananas, but it's a metal.
Well,
It's
I've
a
also
soft
heard that
metal.
if it can pass through your fat layers, it can actually melt, vaporize, and burn your fat.
That sounds
Terrible.
yeah. Unless you're trying to lose some weight.
Oh, gosh. Aaron's new weight loss program is just people screaming in the background.
Electrocute my belly.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, it's super serious topic, guys. It sounds like about dying every other day in the United States on the clock. 166 deaths, you said,
Yeah.
in 1 year.
And then they also say that there's about 30,000 estimated arc flashes that occur every year.
It's just so scary, guys. We really got to get the training. We got to get the right electrical PPE. We for sure 1,000% need to lock and tag out everything and
Oh my
try
gosh.
never to work on stuff live when we don't have to.
Don't do lockout, tagout if you're not trained on it, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to shut down every single component of that piece of equipment.
We need to inspect all our tools and all our cords.
Mm-hmm.
We need to use GFCIs.
Be aware of all of your tools and cords.
Yeah, there's just so much
Slip,
to
trips, and
it.
falls.
And the biggest enemy of it is everybody's completely complacent with it because we deal with it every day.
Oh, yeah. You see it every day. Four-wall syndrome, man.
There's an outlet everywhere. So let's all take electrical safety more seriously and
For sure.
see if we can knock down that 166 a year down to 0.
Heck yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Evil Safety Dudes, where our episode was shocking today.
Oh, my gosh. Goodbye.
We'll see you next time.